As a child growing up in Harlem, I took careful notice to the men and women who were homeless. These were very spirited people who didn't let their circumstance necessarily affect their mood. You know, whenever you would see them, oftentimes they would smile or nod, and depending on the type of person you are, you would do the same out of respect. I can proudly say that I was one of those people and am one of those people. But as a kid growing up, provided those interactions, in some cases conversations, you'd want things to work out for them. You know, you'd hope for the best because now you, again, have that understanding. They're no strangers to you. Sometimes they'll even tell you their stories. And after a certain amount of years, I got to a point in my understanding of the world, maybe my late teens, early 20s, that there was no beam of light that was going to rain down and save them somehow. There was no mystery man with a suitcase that was going to give them a bunch of money. That was required in this life is for you to make the change, right? And having this expectation or this thought that change was going to happen without action would only lead to nothing. So, growing up in a family where I was responsible for my great-grandmother who had dementia and Alzheimer's, she was bedridden for most of my life, a mother and a younger brother, and no college degree between us, and a great vision to get that and more, that was an important inflection point. It was a very important understanding. And there were many periods in that experience where I wanted to give up, right? So many visits my great-grandmother took to the hospital where she was on death's door and I get a call during a final exam and I have to make a decision, or you know, my mother gets sick and I have to watch over her, and my brother, you know, what am I going to do with him? I don't know how to raise a man. I'm barely a man. You know, why me? You know, you kind of get into those narratives and you want to give up, right? You want to give up because I assume responsibility for them, right? A lot of people don't. They have their own lives. They have their own business. YOLO, right? Why do I got to take care of all this? Right? It's not my fault. I didn't make the family. So you think about these things. And sometimes you want to give up, right? You say, well, no one would blame me if they knew my story. But then I would think back to those beautiful men and women whose luck wasn't on their side, and how nothing changed when they gave up. They didn't feel better about it. They weren't more happy. There was no solace in giving up. That I would think back at that and realize that there's no solace for me if I give up. There's no solution in giving up. So I would keep going. So what do I mean when I say don't give up or keep pushing, right? Because those in many cases can be seen as cheap phrases, right? People say it all the time. Don't give up, keep going. Great phrases, great intent. But what does one mean? Well, I don't know what they mean. But what I mean is three things. The first is optimism, right? Having the courage to be optimistic. And my definition of optimism is just the faith that things will work out. But you won't push through with optimism alone, right? Now, optimism is different than just blind positivity, right? You know, you get shot or something happens, you're just, no matter how you feel, you're just positive about it. It's not that. It's just the faith that things will get better. That's it. It's the faith that things will get better, particularly with the right amount of work, right? So it's the faith through works that things will get better. That's optimism. Secondly, what you need is the courage to ask how, right? Either ask yourself or ask someone else who has experience in your challenge or problem. How can I get through this? Right? That's piece number 2. So having the courage to be optimistic, having the courage to ask how, and third, and most importantly, is following through. Because sometimes, as I'm sure you know, you can be presented with an answer or find out an answer to something, and because it might be so scary, it might be so grand, you may not ever follow through. Right? How many of you hate your job, but you know that in order to get to a job you love, you'd have to leave the security of which you currently have? Some of you may not have finished school, and you know you have to go back if you want a different life, but who wants to sit in a classroom in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, right? Who's in a bad relationship that they want to get out of, but they don't want to fight and argue, right? So sometimes you can know the how, but you got to follow through. So that's why I separate them. But they're all cradled in what? Optimism. Because you need optimism just to get started, right? Why even try if you're not optimistic? So you need to have the courage of optimism, the courage to ask how, and when you receive an answer, because you will receive an answer in time, follow through. So through my examination and studying of these beautiful individuals who were down on their luck, and doing that over the years, I realized that in order to get through something, you got to get through it. And at the bedrock of that is optimism. So hopefully that brought you some value. Hopefully it added to your already healthy perspective as you think about whether to give up or give in to something. Understand that there is no solution in giving up, and by God's grace, I hope you keep pushing. Let me know if you have any thoughts. Leave a word of advice or thoughts in the comments, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.